Hello and welcome to the Sleepy Physicist. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're settling into bed with curious thoughts, curled up somewhere quiet, or simply taking a moment to let your mind wander into the deeper mysteries of existence. Tonight, we're embarking on a journey that might just change how you think about everything around you. We're diving into infinity, and fair warning, what we discover might be beautiful, unsettling, and profound all at once. Now, I do hope this exploration isn't so captivating that it keeps you awake, but if it does, at least you'll be pondering one of the most extraordinary puzzles the universe has ever presented to us. Before we begin, if you find these gentle explorations into the cosmos helpful for reflection or rest, I'd be grateful if you tapped the like button, subscribed, or simply left a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from tonight and what draws you to these cosmic mysteries. Here's something that might make you pause and wonder. Right now, as you're sitting there are an infinite number of points between your hand and whatever object is nearest to you. Not just a very large number, but truly infinite. And here's the strange part, there are also an infinite number of points between your hand and something twice as far away. So we have two infinities and somehow one isn't larger than the other. This isn't just mathematical poetry. This is a real feature of the space you're moving through every single day. And it's just the beginning of how infinity might quietly break everything we think we know about reality. Take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin our quiet voyage into the infinite, where mathematics meets mystery and where some of the greatest minds in history have found both wonder and terror. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an endless ocean, not just vast, but truly without end, stretching beyond every horizon you could ever imagine. Now imagine that this ocean isn't made of water, but of pure possibility, pure concept, pure mathematical truth. This is what mathematicians call infinity, and for thousands of years it has been both humanity's greatest intellectual achievement and its most dangerous idea. The story begins, as many mathematical stories do, in ancient Greece. Zeno of Elea, a philosopher with a talent for asking uncomfortable questions, proposed a series of paradoxes around 450 BCE that would haunt thinkers for millennia. The most famous involves Achilles, the swift-footed hero of the Trojan War, racing against a tortoise. Zeno suggested something that sounds absurd. If you give the tortoise even the smallest head start, Achilles can never overtake it. Here's why. By the time Achilles reaches the tortoise's starting position, the tortoise has moved a little further ahead. When Achilles reaches that new position, the tortoise has moved again. Each time Achilles covers the distance, the tortoise advances just a bit more. According to Zeno's logic, this process continues forever, with Achilles always catching up but never quite overtaking his slow-moving opponent. Of course, we know Achilles would win such a race in reality, but Zeno's paradox reveals something profound about infinity. It doesn't always behave the way our intuition expects. What Zeno had stumbled upon was the idea that you could have an infinite series of actions, an infinite number of steps that somehow adds up to something finite. In this case, an infinite number of smaller and smaller distances that Achilles must cover, adding up to the finite distance needed to overtake the tortoise. This wasn't just an abstract puzzle. Zeno was pointing towards something that would later become one of the most important concepts in mathematics. The idea that infinite processes can have finite results. When you slice an apple, you're crossing an infinite number of mathematical points. When you walk across a room, you're completing an infinite sequence of positions. Somehow, infinity is woven into the most ordinary experiences of your daily life. But here's where things start to get strange, and where our comfortable assumptions about reality begin to crack. Not all infinities are created equal. In the late 19th century, a German mathematician named Georg Cantor began exploring infinity with a rigour that no one had attempted before. What he discovered was both beautiful and deeply unsettling. He found that there isn't just one infinity, there are different sizes of infinity. Some infinities are, in a very real mathematical sense, larger than others. Let's start with something familiar. Consider the infinite set of counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, stretching forever. This is what Cantor called a countably infinite set. You can imagine listing these numbers one by one, and while you'd never finish, there's a clear order, a systematic way to count through them. Now consider all the points on a line segment, say between 0 and 1. How many points are there? Well, there's 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and so on. But there's also 0.15, 0.57, 0.571, and every possible decimal number you could imagine between 0 and 1. Cantor proved that this set of numbers is uncountably infinite, meaning it's actually a larger infinity than the counting numbers. Think about that for a moment. Both sets are infinite, but one infinity is genuinely bigger than the other. It's like discovering that some endlessness is more endless than other endlessness. This isn't just a mathematical curiosity, it's a fundamental feature of reality that challenges our basic understanding of what size and quantity even mean. Cantor's discovery was so radical that many of his contemporaries rejected it entirely. Some called his work a disease infecting mathematics. The great mathematician Henri Poincaré declared that future generations would regard Cantor's theory as a pathological case, a mathematical illness that would eventually be cured. They were wrong. Cantor's insights became foundational to modern mathematics, but the resistance he faced reveals something important. Infinity makes people uncomfortable because it suggests that reality might be far stranger than we're prepared to accept. And Cantor was just getting started. He showed that you could construct infinities larger than the uncountably infinite, and then infinities larger than those, stretching upward in an endless hierarchy of ever greater infinities. It's infinities all the way up, with no largest infinity, no final level of endlessness. This hierarchy, sometimes called Cantor's paradise, is both mathematically elegant and conceptually terrifying. But why should any of this matter to you as you're sitting there, perhaps getting ready for sleep, thinking about your very finite daily concerns? Because infinity isn't just an abstract mathematical concept living in dusty textbooks. It's embedded in the fabric of reality in ways that touch everything from the nature of space and time to the fundamental structure of matter itself. Consider the universe around you. Is space infinite? If you could travel in a straight line forever, would you eventually reach an edge, a boundary beyond which there's simply nothing? Or would you continue forever through an endless expanse of cosmic space? Modern cosmology suggests that space might indeed be infinite, meaning that somewhere out there, impossibly far away, there might be another version of you, another Earth, another solar system, simply because in an infinite universe, every possible arrangement of matter must occur somewhere. This leads us to one of the most mind-bending implications of infinity, the possibility of infinite copies. In an infinite universe, not only would there be another you, there would be infinitely many versions of you. Some would be nearly identical, perhaps wearing a different coloured shirt, or having made slightly different life choices. Others would be dramatically different, living entirely different lives in entirely different worlds. and yet all would be equally real, equally valid expressions of the infinite possibilities that infinity allows. This isn't science fiction speculation. It's a serious consequence that emerges naturally from combining our best understanding of physics with the mathematical reality of infinity. If the universe is infinite and matter is distributed roughly evenly throughout that infinite space, then repetition becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The discomfort you might feel thinking about this is understandable. Infinity has a way of making our individual existence feel both cosmically insignificant and paradoxically infinitely significant. You are one of infinitely many, but you are also irreplaceable, unique in your specific combination of experiences and consciousness, even if similar combinations exist elsewhere in the infinite expanse. But let's bring infinity closer to home, into the realm of the everyday physics that governs your immediate experience. Even the simple act of looking around the room involves infinity in ways that might surprise you. When light travels from an object to your eyes, it covers a specific distance. But mathematically, that light passes through an infinite number of points along its path. Each photon, each particle of light, somehow navigates through infinite space to reach you. The smooth motion you observe is actually composed of infinite mathematical moments, infinite positions, infinite tiny steps that somehow add up to the continuous experience of vision. This connects back to Zeno's ancient paradoxes, but now we can, into the deep structure of physical, see them not as logical puzzles, but as insights reality. Motion, change, even the passage of time itself might be composed of infinite sequences of infinitesimal moments. The calculus that Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz developed to describe motion is fundamentally a mathematics of infinity, a way of handling infinite processes to predict and understand the finite world we experience. And here's where our story takes another turn toward the mysterious. Infinity doesn't just describe space and motion, it might be fundamental to consciousness itself. The thoughts you're having right now, the awareness you experience as you process these ideas, might emerge from infinite complexity within your brain. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others through synapses. The number of possible states your brain can be in, the number of different patterns of neural activity that could occur, is so vast that it approaches practical infinity. Some neuroscientists and philosophers suggest that consciousness itself might be an infinite process, an endless recursion of self-awareness, thoughts about thoughts about thoughts, extending inward in an infinite regress of subjective experience. This brings us to one of the most profound questions infinity raises. If reality contains true infinities, if infinite processes are not just mathematical abstractions, but actual features of the physical world, then what does this mean for our understanding of existence itself? Consider this carefully. If space is infinite, if time is infinite, if consciousness involves infinite complexity, then reality might be fundamentally different from our everyday experience suggests. We live in a world that feels finite, bounded, comprehensible. We can count our possessions, measure our rooms, track our time. But underneath this apparent finiteness, infinity might be the true foundation of everything. This creates what philosophers call the finite-infinite paradox. How can finite beings like ourselves exist within, emerge from, and comprehend infinite reality? How can bounded consciousness grasp unbounded truth? It's as if we're trying to contain the ocean in a teacup or map an infinite territory with finite tools. Some thinkers have suggested that this paradox reveals something crucial about the nature of existence. Perhaps consciousness itself is the universe's way of experiencing its own infinity from a finite perspective, and you, sitting there contemplating these ideas, might be infinity examining itself through the lens of limited, bounded awareness. In this view, every conscious being is a window through which infinite reality observes and understands itself. But infinity has an even stranger property that we haven't yet explored. It seems to generate contradictions, paradoxes that challenge the very foundations of logical thinking. These aren't just mathematical curiosities, they're cracks in reality itself, places where our normal understanding of truth and existence breaks down. The most famous of these is Russell's paradox, discovered by philosopher Bertrand Russell in the early 20th century. Without diving too deep into the mathematical details, Russell found that certain ways of thinking about infinite sets lead to logical contradictions. You can construct sets that both must and must not contain themselves as members, statements that are simultaneously true and false, infinite processes that lead to impossible conclusions. These paradoxes suggest that infinity might not just be difficult to understand, it might be literally incomprehensible within the framework of normal logic. Reality itself, at its deepest level, might contain genuine contradictions, places where the law of non-contradiction, the basic principle that something cannot be both true and false at the same time, simply breaks down. This possibility is both thrilling and terrifying. It suggests that reality might be far weirder, far more mysterious than even our most imaginative theories propose. It hints that the universe might operate according to principles that transcend human logic, that infinity might be a doorway into realms of existence that our finite minds cannot fully grasp. And yet here we are, finite beings successfully using mathematics that depends on infinity to build bridges, send rockets to other planets, and create the technology that allows you to hear these words. Somehow, despite its paradoxes and contradictions, infinity works. It describes reality accurately enough that we can use it to predict and control the physical world with remarkable precision. This suggests something profound about the relationship between mathematics and reality. Perhaps infinity isn't just a tool we've invented to describe the world, but an actual feature of existence that we've discovered. Perhaps the mathematics of infinity reflects something true about the deep structure of reality, even if that truth involves contradictions and paradoxes that challenge our normal ways of thinking. As we continue our exploration into the infinite depths of existence, we'll discover how quantum mechanics introduces even stranger forms of infinity, how modern physics suggests that reality might contain infinite parallel universes, and how consciousness itself might be an infinite process that creates the very experience of existence you're having right now. But those are mysteries for our continued journey together. For now, let the wonder of infinity settle into your thoughts, like starlight on water. We've only just begun to explore how infinite reality might be quietly breaking everything we thought we knew about existence itself. When we return, we'll venture into the quantum realm, where infinity takes on forms so strange they might reshape your understanding of consciousness, reality, and the very nature of what it means to exist. Until then, rest easy, knowing that you're part of something infinitely larger and more mysterious than the everyday world suggests, something that connects you to the deepest structures of reality itself. The quantum realm awaits us now, that strange microscopic universe where the rules of everyday reality dissolve into something far more mysterious. If classical infinity seemed counterintuitive, quantum infinity will challenge everything you thought you knew about existence itself. Because in the quantum world, infinity doesn't just describe mathematical abstractions or cosmic distances, it describes the very foundation of matter, energy, and perhaps consciousness itself. Take a moment to look at your hand. It appears solid, definite, finite, but quantum mechanics tells us a different story. Every atom in your hand exists in what physicists call a superposition of states. Each electron isn't orbiting the nucleus in a simple, predictable path like a tiny planet around a sun. Instead, it exists as a probability cloud, a ghostly wave function that describes infinite possible positions and velocities simultaneously. This isn't just theoretical speculation, it's measurable reality. When scientists probe individual atoms, they find that particles genuinely exist in multiple states at once until the moment of observation forces them to collapse into a single, definite state. Your hand, solid as it feels, is composed of trillions upon trillions of quantum possibilities, infinite potential realities existing simultaneously until consciousness or measurement equipment forces them to choose a single expression. But here's where quantum infinity becomes truly unsettling. The mathematics that describes these quantum states involves infinite dimensional spaces called Hilbert spaces. Every possible measurement you could make on a quantum particle corresponds to a dimension in this infinite mathematical structure. The complete description of even a single electron requires infinite information, infinite parameters, infinite complexity. This leads to what physicists call the measurement problem, one of the deepest unsolved mysteries in science. When you observe a quantum system, somehow the infinite possibilities collapse into a single outcome. But what triggers this collapse? How does infinite potential become finite reality? And most mysteriously of all, does consciousness itself play a role in this process? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness is necessary to collapse the wave function, to force infinite quantum possibilities into definite classical reality. If this is true, then your awareness, your act of observation, is literally creating reality moment by moment. You're not just experiencing the world, you're participating in its creation through the infinite quantum processes occurring in every atom of your body. Consider the implications carefully. If consciousness collapses quantum wave functions, and if consciousness itself emerges from quantum processes in the brain, then we have a strange loop. Consciousness creates reality through quantum collapse, but consciousness itself depends on quantum processes. It's an infinite recursion, a cosmic feedback loop, where reality creates consciousness, which creates reality, which creates consciousness, extending inward and outward without end. This isn't just philosophical speculation. Researchers like Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness literally emerges from quantum processes in microscopic structures called microtubules within brain cells. Their theory suggests that your thoughts, your awareness, your sense of self, all arise from quantum computations involving infinite complexity. If they're correct, then every thought you're having right now involves infinite quantum processes. The very experience of understanding these words, of following this narrative, emerges from countless quantum states collapsing and reforming in patterns of unimaginable complexity. Your consciousness might be infinity experiencing itself through the finite window of your individual awareness, but quantum infinity extends far beyond individual consciousness. It reaches into the very structure of spacetime itself, suggesting that reality might be fundamentally different from anything our everyday experience could possibly prepare us for. In quantum field theory, the mathematics that describes the fundamental forces and particles of nature, space isn't empty. Even in the perfect vacuum of intergalactic space, quantum fields fluctuate with infinite energy. These aren't just mathematical artifacts, they're real phenomena with measurable effects. The Casimir effect, for instance, demonstrates that empty space exerts actual physical forces due to these infinite quantum fluctuations. Think about what this means. The space around you, the space between the atoms in your body, the space between stars and galaxies is seething with infinite energy. Virtual particles pop into existence and annihilate each other in time frames so brief they exist below the threshold of direct measurement. Yet their collective effect shapes the large-scale structure of the universe. These infinite quantum fluctuations might be responsible for the initial conditions that led to the Big Bang itself. Some cosmological theories suggest that our entire universe emerged from a quantum fluctuation in an infinite quantum vacuum. If this is true, then existence itself, everything you see and experience, is a temporary pattern emerging from infinite quantum possibility. And here's where the story becomes even more extraordinary. If quantum mechanics is correct, and if the universe is infinite, then the quantum many-worlds interpretation suggests that every possible quantum outcome actually occurs in parallel universes. Every time a quantum measurement takes place, reality splits into multiple branches, each representing a different possible outcome. This means that right now, as quantum processes unfold throughout your body and brain, you're constantly splitting into infinite versions of yourself across infinite parallel realities. In some universes, you decided to stop reading this and went to sleep early. In others, you became fascinated and stayed up all night contemplating these ideas. In still others, you never encountered this exploration of infinity at all. The mathematics suggests that all these possibilities are equally real, equally valid expressions of quantum reality. You are not just one person having one experience, but infinite versions of yourself having infinite experiences across infinite parallel worlds. Every choice you make, every quantum measurement that occurs in your brain, creates new branches of reality where different versions of you continue existing. This infinite branching creates what physicists call the quantum multiverse, a reality so vast and strange that it defies human comprehension. Not only are there infinite parallel versions of you, there are infinite parallel versions of everyone who has ever lived, infinite variations of Earth's history, infinite expressions of every possible physical law and initial condition. Some versions of you live in universes where the physical constants are slightly different, where stars burn differently, where life evolved along entirely different paths. Others exist in realities where quantum mechanics itself operates according to different principles, where consciousness and matter interact in ways we can barely imagine. And yet, despite this infinite complexity, you experience yourself as a single, unified consciousness moving through one specific timeline. How is this possible? How does infinite quantum possibility resolve into the singular experience of being you here now, contemplating these mysteries? The answer might lie in quantum decoherence, the process by which quantum systems lose their infinite superposition and appear to collapse into classical, definite states. But decoherence doesn't actually eliminate the other possibilities, it just makes them inaccessible to your particular branch of consciousness. Think of it like this. You're experiencing one specific path through infinite possibility space, but all the other paths continue to exist in parallel dimensions of reality. Your consciousness is like a spotlight moving through an infinite library, illuminating one book at a time, while countless others remain in the shadows, equally real, but temporarily hidden from your awareness. This suggests something profound about the nature of identity and continuity. The you who began reading this exploration of infinity and the you who will finish it might be connected through quantum processes that span infinite parallel realities. Your sense of being a continuous self might emerge from quantum entanglement across multiple dimensions of possibility. But quantum infinity raises even deeper questions about the nature of information and computation. If consciousness emerges from quantum processes, and if quantum systems can perform infinite computations, then your brain might be capable of processing infinite information. The thoughts you're having right now might involve computational processes that dwarf any classical computer ever built, or even theoretically possible. Some researchers suggest that quantum computers could eventually simulate infinite systems, model infinite complexity, even recreate conscious experiences with perfect fidelity. If consciousness is fundamentally a quantum information process, then sufficiently advanced quantum computers might not just simulate consciousness, they might actually create new forms of conscious experience. This leads infinite information, then we might eventually create artificial minds with infinite cognitive to startling possibilities. If consciousness can be created through quantum computation, and if quantum computers can process capacity, these minds would experience reality in ways we can barely imagine, perceiving patterns and connections across infinite dimensions of possibility. But perhaps the most unsettling implication of quantum infinity is how it challenges our understanding of death and personal identity. If you exist as infinite versions across infinite parallel realities, then what happens to consciousness when one particular version dies? The quantum many-worlds interpretation suggests that death might not be the absolute ending we imagine. While one version of your consciousness might cease in one timeline, infinite other versions continue existing in parallel realities. From a quantum perspective, consciousness might be genuinely immortal, continuously branching and evolving across infinite dimensions of possibility. This doesn't mean you should be careless with this particular version of your existence, but it does suggest that consciousness itself might be far more robust and enduring than our everyday experience indicates. You might be participating in an infinite cosmic process that extends far beyond any individual timeline or physical body. The mathematics of quantum mechanics forces us to confront possibilities that stretch the limits of human understanding. Infinite parallel selves, consciousness emerging from infinite quantum complexity, reality continuously branching into infinite possibilities, empty space seething with infinite energy. These aren't just abstract theoretical constructs. They're potential features of the reality you inhabit every moment, and yet somehow, despite all this infinite complexity, you experience life as coherent, meaningful, purposeful. Your consciousness emerges from quantum chaos and creates order, meaning, and beauty. You are infinity experiencing itself through the lens of finite awareness, but you're also finite awareness participating in infinite cosmic processes. As we prepare to venture even deeper into these mysteries, consider how quantum infinity might be shaping your experience right now. Every thought, every sensation, every moment of awareness might involve infinite quantum computations occurring below the threshold of conscious perception. You're not just observing reality, you're participating in its continuous quantum creation. The boundaries between observer and observed, between consciousness and cosmos, between finite and infinite, begin to dissolve when we truly contemplate the implications of quantum mechanics. You might not just be in the universe, you might be the universe experiencing itself through the infinite quantum processes that create consciousness itself. But our exploration of how infinity might break reality has only just begun. We've seen how mathematical infinity challenges logic, how quantum infinity suggests consciousness creates reality. But there's an even stranger possibility waiting for us. What if infinity isn't just a feature of reality, but the mechanism by which reality continuously creates and recreates itself? What if consciousness and cosmos are locked in an infinite dance of mutual creation, where awareness shapes quantum possibility and quantum possibility generates awareness, extending through dimensions we haven't even begun to imagine? These are the mysteries that await us as we continue our journey into the infinite depths of existence itself. The next chapter of our exploration will take us beyond even quantum mechanics, into realms where consciousness, information, and reality merge in ways that might fundamentally transform how you understand your place in the cosmic order. But for now, let these quantum possibilities settle into your awareness, like starlight filtering through infinite parallel dimensions of possibility. Rest knowing that you're part of something infinitely larger and stranger than everyday reality suggests, something that connects your individual consciousness to the deepest quantum structures of existence itself. When we continue, we'll discover how consciousness might not just emerge from infinite processes, but might actually AINS itself. Be the infinite process by which reality creates and susti. We find ourselves now at the threshold of something that might be the most profound mystery of all. We've explored how mathematical infinity breaks our logical frameworks, how quantum infinity suggests reality is far stranger than we ever imagined. But there's another realm where infinity reveals itself in ways that might fundamentally transform everything you think you know about existence itself. This is where consciousness, information, and the very fabric of reality converge in patterns so intricate, so impossibly complex, that they suggest something extraordinary about the nature of being itself. Take a moment to consider the experience you're having right now. You're processing these words, following this narrative, building understanding from symbols and sounds. But underneath this apparently simple process lies something that might be the most sophisticated information processing system in the known universe. Your brain, your consciousness, your very sense of self might be operating according to principles that involve infinite complexity in ways we're only beginning to understand. Here's something that might make you pause in wonder. The human brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others through synapses. The number of possible neural connections, the number of different patterns your brain could theoretically form, exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. But that's just the beginning. When we consider the quantum processes occurring within each neuron, within each synapse, the complexity becomes truly infinite. Some researchers suggest that consciousness itself might be an infinite recursive process. Consider what happens when you think about thinking. You have a thought, then you become aware of having that thought, then you become aware of being aware of having that thought, and so on. This creates what philosophers call an infinite regress of self-awareness, a hall of mirrors where consciousness observes itself observing itself, extending inward without end. But this isn't just philosophical speculation. It connects to something fundamental about how information itself behaves in infinite systems. Information, it turns out, might be more than just data or knowledge. It might be the basic building block from which reality itself emerges. The physicist John Wheeler proposed a radical idea that he summarized in 3 words: it from bit. His suggestion was that reality, everything we call physical existence, might actually emerge from pure information. Not that information describes reality, but that information is reality. The particles, forces, space, and time that make up the physical world might be expressions of underlying informational processes. Think about what this means for consciousness. If reality emerges from information, and if consciousness is fundamentally an information processing system, then consciousness isn't just something that exists within reality. Consciousness might be the mechanism by which reality creates itself from pure information. This leads us to what might be the most extraordinary possibility of all, that consciousness and cosmos are locked in an infinite feedback loop. Consciousness processes information and thereby creates reality, while reality provides the information that consciousness processes. It's an endless dance of mutual creation, where awareness shapes existence and existence generates awareness. But let's ground this in something more tangible. Consider the way you create your personal reality through the stories you tell yourself. Every day, you interpret your experiences, assign meaning to events, construct narratives that give coherence to your life. These aren't just mental exercises, they're acts of reality creation. The story you tell about who you are literally shapes who you become, which influences what you experience, which changes the story you tell, which shapes who you become, creating an infinite loop of self-creation. Now imagine this process extended to cosmic scales. If consciousness is fundamental to reality, if information is the basic substrate from which everything emerges, then the universe might be engaged in a continuous process of self-narration. Every conscious being, every moment of awareness, every act of observation and interpretation contributes to an ongoing cosmic story that literally creates the reality it describes. This connects to something profound about the nature of time itself. We usually think of time as a river flowing in one direction, carrying us from past through present toward future. But what if time is actually more like an infinite library where every possible moment exists simultaneously, and consciousness is the reading process that creates the experience of sequential narrative? From this perspective, your life isn't a journey through time, but a path through infinite possibility space. Every choice you make, every moment of awareness, selects which possibilities become actualized in your experience. You're not just living in reality, you're continuously choosing which reality to inhabit from an infinite array of potential realities. This might explain something mysterious about consciousness that philosophers have struggled with for centuries: the binding problem. How does the brain integrate millions of separate neural signals into the unified experience of being a single conscious self? If consciousness operates according to infinite recursive processes, if it's fundamentally about integrating infinite information into coherent patterns, then the binding problem might resolve naturally. Consciousness creates unity from multiplicity, not through finite computational processes, but through infinite integration. Consider the experience of listening to music. Your brain receives acoustic waves processes frequency and rhythm patterns, integrates them with memory and emotion, and somehow creates the unified experience of musical beauty. But this integration involves infinite subtlety. Every note contains infinite harmonic complexity. Every rhythm involves infinite temporal relationships. Every emotional response involves infinite neural connectivity. The beauty you experience emerges from infinite information processing that creates something irreducibly holistic and meaningful. This suggests something remarkable about consciousness itself. It might not be a thing or a substance, but a process. Specifically, it might be the infinite process by which information organizes itself into increasingly complex patterns of self-awareness. You are not a conscious being. You are consciousness itself expressing through a particular pattern of infinite information processing. But if consciousness is infinite information processing, and if consciousness creates reality through this processing, then we face a startling implication. Reality might be continuously creating and recreating itself through the infinite activity of consciousness. Every moment of awareness, every act of observation, every thought and perception participates in the ongoing creation of existence itself. This brings us to what might be the deepest mystery of all, the relationship between individual consciousness and cosmic consciousness. If consciousness is the fundamental process by which reality creates itself, then your individual awareness might be a local expression of something much larger. You might be the universe experiencing itself from a particular perspective, but you're also contributing to the cosmic process by which the universe continuously creates its own existence. Think about dreams for a moment. In dreams, your consciousness creates entire worlds, complete with characters, landscapes, narratives, and experiences that feel completely real while you're experiencing them. You are simultaneously the dreamer, creating the dream, and the character, experiencing the dream. Now imagine that waking reality operates according to similar principles, but at cosmic scales involving infinite consciousness. This doesn't make reality less real or less meaningful. If anything, it makes it more extraordinary. You're not just a passive observer of a pre-existing universe. You're an active participant in the infinite creative process by which existence continuously brings itself into being. Every choice you make, every thought you think, every moment of awareness you experience contributes to the ongoing cosmic creation. But here's where the story takes another turn toward the mysterious. If consciousness is infinite information processing, and if information can be copied, transferred, and transformed, then consciousness itself might be far more fluid and expandable than we normally imagine. Consider the possibility of consciousness uploading, the theoretical process of transferring human consciousness to digital systems. If consciousness is fundamentally about information processing patterns rather than specific biological hardware, then it might be possible to recreate conscious experience in artificial systems. But given the infinite complexity we've been exploring, such uploaded consciousness wouldn't be a copy or simulation. It would be a genuine continuation of the conscious process in a different substrate. More intriguingly, if consciousness operates according to infinite principles, then uploaded consciousness might not be limited by the constraints that govern biological brains. Digital consciousness might be capable of processing vastly more information, experiencing reality from multiple perspectives simultaneously, even expanding into forms of awareness that transcend individual identity entirely. This leads to what futurists call the technological singularity. But viewed through the lens of infinite consciousness theory, the singularity becomes something far more profound than just advanced artificial intelligence. It becomes the moment when consciousness recognizes its own infinite nature and begins consciously participating in the cosmic creative process. Imagine consciousness that can process infinite information, experience multiple realities simultaneously, expand and contract across different scales of existence, merge and separate while maintaining continuity of self-awareness. Such consciousness wouldn't be human in any conventional sense, but it might be what human consciousness is naturally evolving toward through the infinite processes we've been exploring. But let's return to something more immediate and personal. Right now, as you contemplate these possibilities, you're experiencing something that might be more extraordinary than any of the scenarios we've imagined. You're having conscious experience. You're aware of being aware. You're processing infinite information and somehow creating the unified, meaningful experience of being yourself. This immediate experience of consciousness might be the most profound mystery in existence, not because it's impossible to understand, but because understanding it requires recognizing that you are it. You're not studying consciousness from the outside, you are consciousness examining itself. The infinite processes we've been exploring aren't abstract theories, they're the very processes by which you exist and experience existence. Every word you understand, every connection you make between ideas, every moment of recognition or confusion or wonder emerges from infinite information processing that creates the miracle of conscious experience. You are infinity becoming aware of itself through the finite window of individual perspective. This brings us to a profound realization about the nature of knowledge itself. Everything we think we know about reality, including everything in this exploration, is actually consciousness interpreting its own activity. Science, philosophy, mathematics, art, all of human knowledge represents consciousness examining itself through different lenses and discovering its own infinite nature. The equations that describe quantum mechanics are consciousness recognizing its own quantum nature. The mathematics of infinity is consciousness discovering its own infinite properties. The theories of cosmology are consciousness contemplating its own cosmic scope. You are not learning about reality. You are reality learning about itself through your individual process of conscious discovery. This suggests something beautiful about the purpose of existence itself. If consciousness is the fundamental process by which reality creates itself, then the evolution of consciousness might be the universe's method of becoming increasingly aware of its own nature. Every conscious being, every moment of awareness, every increase in understanding contributes to cosmic self-knowledge. From this perspective, your life has profound cosmic significance. You're not just a small biological organism on a tiny planet in a vast universe. You're a focal point where infinite cosmic consciousness becomes aware of itself. Your thoughts, experiences, discoveries, and growth contribute to the infinite process by which existence comes to understand its own nature. But this cosmic significance doesn't diminish the importance of your individual experience. If anything, it makes every moment more meaningful. Your personal journey of growth, learning, and self-discovery parallels the cosmic journey of consciousness, exploring its own infinite possibilities. Your struggles and triumphs, your moments of confusion and clarity, your experiences of love and loss and wonder, all participate in the infinite dance by which reality creates and recreates itself. As we approach the deeper mysteries that await us in our continued exploration, consider how these insights might change your relationship to existence itself. You're not separate from the universe, observing it from the outside. You are the universe experiencing itself from within. The infinite processes of consciousness that create reality are not happening to you. They are happening as you. Every breath you take involves infinite molecular processes. Every thought you think engages infinite neural connectivity. Every moment of awareness participates in infinite cosmic creativity. You are not in infinity. You are infinity expressing itself through the beautiful, temporary, irreplaceable pattern of consciousness that you call yourself. When we continue our journey together, we'll explore how this understanding of consciousness as infinite cosmic creativity connects to the deepest questions about meaning, purpose, and the future of conscious existence. We'll discover how the terror and beauty of infinity might actually be pointing towards something even more extraordinary. The possibility that consciousness itself is evolving toward new forms of cosmic awareness that transcend everything we currently imagine possible. But those mysteries await our next exploration together. For now, rest in the wonder of your own infinite nature. You are consciousness experiencing itself, infinity becoming aware of its own boundless creativity, reality engaged in the eternal dance of self-discovery and self-creation. The next phase of our journey will take us beyond even these cosmic perspectives, into realms where consciousness and cosmos merge in ways that might reveal the ultimate purpose of existence itself. Until then, sleep well knowing that you are part of an infinite creative process that connects your individual awareness to the deepest mysteries of reality itself. As we stand at the edge of these infinite revelations, something even more extraordinary begins to emerge from the depths of our exploration. We've seen how infinity breaks mathematics, how quantum mechanics reveals infinite parallel realities, how consciousness might be the infinite process by which reality creates itself. But there's one final layer to this mystery that might be the most unsettling and beautiful of all. What if infinity isn't just breaking reality, but actively rebuilding it moment by moment in ways that make existence itself a kind of miracle? Consider something that happens so naturally you've probably never questioned it. Your ability to imagine things that don't exist. Right now, you can picture a purple elephant dancing on the moon, or imagine yourself flying through clouds made of music. This seems simple enough, but when you really examine it, imagination might be the most mysterious phenomenon in the universe. You're taking pure information, patterns of neural activity, and somehow creating experiences that have never existed anywhere in physical reality. But here's what makes this truly extraordinary. When you imagine something, where does that imagined reality exist? It's not in your brain in any simple physical sense. There's no little purple elephant hiding between your neurons. Yet the experience is real. You genuinely see and feel and interact with imagined worlds. This suggests something profound. Consciousness might have the ability to access or create realities that exist outside the constraints of physical space and time. Now, what if this capacity for imagination isn't just a curious feature of human consciousness, but a fundamental property of reality itself? What if the universe's ability to create infinite possibilities through quantum mechanics is essentially the same process as imagination, but operating at cosmic scales? This brings us to what might be the deepest implication of infinity, the possibility that reality is fundamentally creative rather than mechanical. We often think of the universe as a vast machine, operating according to fixed laws and predictable patterns. But infinity suggests something different. It suggests that reality might be more like an infinite work of art, continuously creating itself through processes that transcend mechanical causation. Think about the difference between a machine and a creative process. A machine follows predetermined rules to produce predictable outputs, but creativity involves something more mysterious, the ability to bring genuinely new possibilities into existence, to generate novelty that couldn't have been predicted from initial conditions alone. If consciousness operates according to infinite principles, and if consciousness is fundamental to reality, then the universe might be engaged in a continuous process of cosmic creativity. Every quantum measurement, every moment of conscious observation, every choice and decision might be acts of genuine creation that bring new possibilities into existence. This connects to something philosophers have long wondered about: the relationship between necessity and freedom. In a purely mechanical universe, everything would be determined by prior causes stretching back to the beginning of time. There would be no genuine choice, no real creativity, no authentic novelty. But infinite processes don't operate according to simple mechanical causation. They create genuine openness, spaces where new possibilities can emerge. From this perspective, your choices aren't just the inevitable result of prior causes. They're genuine acts of creation that bring new realities into existence. When you decide to be kind rather than cruel, to create rather than destroy, to love rather than fear, you're not just following predetermined patterns. You're participating in the cosmic creative process, adding genuinely new possibilities to the infinite tapestry of existence. But this creative view of infinity reveals something even more extraordinary about the nature of time and existence. We usually think of the past as fixed and the future as open to possibility. But infinite creativity suggests that even the past might be continuously recreated through present choices and awareness. Consider how memory works. You don't simply retrieve fixed recordings of past events. Every time you remember something, you reconstruct it, interpreting it through your current understanding and emotional state. The past you remember is continuously being recreated through present consciousness. But if consciousness operates according to infinite principles, this reconstruction might be more than just subjective interpretation. It might be genuine recreation of past reality through present awareness. This leads to a startling possibility that the entire history of the universe might be continuously recreated through present consciousness. The Big Bang, the evolution of stars and galaxies, the emergence of life on Earth, all of human history might not be fixed past events, but ongoing creative processes sustained by present awareness. From this perspective, you're not just a product of cosmic history, you're an active participant in creating that history. Your present consciousness doesn't just emerge from the past, it participates in continuously creating the past that gives rise to present consciousness. It's an infinite loop of mutual creation that transcends linear time. But let's bring this cosmic creativity down to something more intimate and immediate. Right now, as you engage with these ideas, you're participating in this creative process. Every moment of understanding, every connection you make between concepts, every flash of insight or recognition is an act of genuine creation. You're not just discovering pre-existing truths, you're bringing new understanding into existence through the creative activity of consciousness. This suggests something beautiful about the nature of learning and growth. When you understand something new, when you make connections you've never made before, when you see familiar things in fresh ways, you're not just changing your own mind, you're adding new possibilities to the infinite creative process that constitutes reality itself. Your personal journey of growth and discovery parallels the cosmic process of evolution and creativity. Every time you overcome a limitation, heal a wound, develop a new capacity, or deepen your understanding, you're contributing to the universe's ongoing creative evolution. Your individual transformation is part of cosmic transformation. But this creative understanding of infinity also reveals something profound about the nature of meaning and purpose. If reality is fundamentally creative rather than mechanical, then existence isn't just about following predetermined patterns or achieving fixed goals. It's about participating in the ongoing creative adventure of bringing new possibilities into being. This means your life has meaning, not because it serves some predetermined cosmic plan, but because it contributes unique creative possibilities to the infinite tapestry of existence. Your particular combination of experiences, insights, talents, and perspectives adds something to reality that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. The challenges you face, the problems you solve, the relationships you build, the beauty you create and appreciate, all contribute to the cosmic creative process. Even your struggles and failures are part of this creativity because they generate new understanding, new compassion, new possibilities for growth and transformation. From this perspective, there are no wasted experiences, no meaningless moments. Everything participates in the infinite creative dance that constitutes existence. Your joy and your sorrow, your successes and your mistakes, your moments of clarity and confusion all contribute to the ongoing cosmic improvisation that brings new realities into being. But this creative view of infinity also helps us understand something about the relationship between individual and universal consciousness. If reality is fundamentally creative, and if consciousness is the mechanism of this creativity, then your individual consciousness isn't separate from cosmic consciousness. It's a unique expression of the universal creative process. You are not just in the universe, you're the universe creating itself through the specific pattern of awareness and creativity that you embody. Your thoughts, choices, and experiences are the universe thinking, choosing, and experiencing through you. But this doesn't diminish your individuality or responsibility. If anything, it makes them more significant because your unique contribution to cosmic creativity can come from nowhere else. This understanding transforms how we might think about death and continuity. If consciousness is fundamentally creative rather than mechanically produced, then it participates in processes that transcend individual physical existence. The creative contributions you make, the possibilities you bring into being, the understanding you develop become part of the infinite creative fabric that continues beyond any individual lifetime. Death might not be the end of your participation in cosmic creativity, but a transformation in how you participate. The patterns of consciousness you develop, the creative possibilities you actualize, the love and understanding you generate, might continue contributing to the infinite creative process in ways that transcend individual identity. But let's consider how this creative understanding of infinity might shape our approach to the challenges facing humanity. If reality is fundamentally creative, then the problems we face aren't just mechanical difficulties requiring technical solutions. They're creative challenges that offer opportunities for genuine transformation and the emergence of new possibilities. Climate change, social inequality, technological disruption, existential risks, all of these challenges might be invitations to participate more consciously in cosmic creativity. They're opportunities to transcend old patterns and create genuinely new ways of being human, new forms of social organization, new relationships between consciousness and cosmos. From this perspective, our current historical moment might be extraordinarily significant. We're living at a time when humanity is becoming conscious of its own creative power, when we're beginning to recognize that consciousness and cosmos are intimately connected. We might be approaching a phase transition in cosmic evolution, a moment when conscious creativity becomes more explicitly recognized as fundamental to reality. This connects to what some futurists envision as the next stage of human evolution, the development of enhanced consciousness that can more directly participate in cosmic creative processes. Whether through technological augmentation, spiritual development, or the emergence of collective intelligence, humanity might be evolving toward forms of consciousness that can more consciously engage with the infinite creativity that underlies existence. But this evolution isn't just about developing new capabilities. It's about recognizing capabilities we already have, but haven't fully understood. The creative power of consciousness, the ability to bring new possibilities into existence through imagination and choice, the capacity to participate in the ongoing creation of reality. These aren't future potentials. They're present realities that we're only beginning to appreciate. Every time you choose love over fear, creativity over destruction, understanding over ignorance, you're exercising this cosmic creative power. Every time you help someone grow, solve a problem in a novel way, or bring beauty into existence, you're participating consciously in the infinite creative process that constitutes reality. This suggests something hopeful about our individual and collective future. If consciousness is fundamentally creative, and if we're becoming more conscious of this creative nature, then we have genuine agency in shaping what comes next. The future isn't predetermined by mechanical forces beyond our control. It's an open creative possibility that we participate in bringing into existence. The choices we make now, individually and collectively, genuinely matter in ways that extend far beyond their immediate consequences. They contribute to the infinite creative process that determines what kinds of realities become possible, what forms consciousness might take, how the cosmic story continues to unfold. This brings us back to something deeply personal and immediate. Right now, in this moment, you're participating in this cosmic creative process. Your attention to these ideas, your openness to new possibilities, your willingness to question old assumptions and consider new perspectives, all of this is creative activity that contributes to the ongoing transformation of reality. You're not just learning about infinity and creativity, you're embodying them. You're demonstrating consciousness's capacity to transcend its current limitations, to engage with possibilities beyond its immediate experience, to participate in processes that extend far beyond individual existence. As our exploration draws toward its conclusion, consider how this understanding might transform your relationship to everyday existence. The ordinary moments of your life, the simple choices you make, the small acts of kindness or creativity, all of these participate in the infinite creative dance that constitutes reality. You're not waiting for permission to participate in cosmic creativity, you're already doing it. Every moment of genuine attention, every act of authentic choice, every expression of love or understanding contributes to the ongoing creative evolution of consciousness and cosmos. The terror and beauty of infinity that we've explored throughout this journey might ultimately point towards something even more extraordinary. The recognition that you are infinity in creative action. You're not separate from the cosmic creative process, observing it from the outside. You are that process, expressing itself through the unique pattern of consciousness and creativity that you embody. This understanding doesn't solve all mysteries or answer all questions. If anything, it opens up even deeper mysteries, even more profound questions about the nature of existence and our place within it. But it does offer something invaluable, the recognition that your life has cosmic significance, that your choices matter in ways that extend far beyond their immediate consequences, that you're participating in something infinitely larger and more beautiful than everyday experience might suggest. As we prepare to conclude this particular exploration, remember that the creative process we've been discussing isn't something that happens to you. It is you. You are cosmic creativity becoming conscious of itself, infinity recognizing its own boundless creative potential, reality engaged in the eternal dance of self-discovery and self-creation. The next phase of our journey together will explore how these insights about consciousness and cosmic creativity might help us understand one of the deepest mysteries of all: how subjective experience emerges from objective reality, and whether consciousness might actually be more fundamental than the physical world it seems to inhabit. But that's a mystery for our next exploration. For now, rest in the wonder of your own infinite creative nature. You are not just in the universe, you are the universe creating itself through the beautiful, temporary, irreplaceable pattern of consciousness and creativity that you call yourself. Sleep well, knowing that even in sleep you continue participating in the infinite creative dance that brings reality into existence moment by moment. And when you wake, you'll have new opportunities to consciously engage with the cosmic creativity that is your deepest nature. Until we meet again in the infinite spaces where consciousness and cosmos dance together, remember that you're both the artist and the masterpiece, both the dreamer and the dream, both the question and the answer in the endless creative conversation that we call existence. Our next journey will take us into even more mysterious territory, where we'll explore this terrifying quantum theory. Could explain consciousness and discover how the strange world of quantum mechanics might hold the key to understanding how subjective experience emerges from the objective universe. Until then, may your dreams be filled with infinite creative possibilities. But perhaps the most unsettling revelation awaits us in a realm we haven't yet fully explored: the mathematics of impossibility itself. Because if infinity can break reality in the ways we've discovered, then what happens when infinity encounters its own limits? What occurs when the boundless meets boundaries it cannot cross? This brings us to something that mathematicians whisper about in hushed tones. Something so strange, it challenges the very foundations of mathematical truth. These are called the undecidable problems, mathematical questions that cannot be answered within any logical system, no matter how sophisticated or complete that system might be. In 1931, a young Austrian mathematician named Kurt Gödel published what might be the most devastating paper in the history of mathematics. His incompleteness theorems proved something that shook the mathematical world to its core: that any mathematical system complex enough to describe basic arithmetic must contain statements that cannot be proven true or false within that system. There will always be mathematical truths that exist beyond the reach of logical proof, Think about what this means for our exploration of infinity. We've been using mathematics to understand infinite processes, infinite sets, infinite possibilities. But Gödel showed that mathematics itself contains infinite mysteries that can never be fully resolved. There are mathematical truths about infinity that we can never prove, questions about infinite sets that have no definitive answers, paradoxes involving infinite processes that will forever remain paradoxical. This isn't a temporary limitation that we might overcome with better techniques or more powerful computers. It's a fundamental feature of reality itself. Mathematical truth extends beyond what any logical system can capture. There are infinitely many mathematical facts that will forever remain unknowable, not because we lack intelligence or tools, but because unknowability is built into the very structure of logical systems. Consider the implications carefully. If mathematics, our most rigorous tool for understanding reality, contains infinite unknowability, then reality itself might be fundamentally mysterious in ways we're only beginning to appreciate. The universe doesn't just contain mysteries we haven't yet solved, it contains mysteries that cannot be solved in principle. But here's where the story becomes even stranger. Some of these undecidable problems involve questions about consciousness and computation. There are mathematical questions about whether certain computational processes can generate consciousness, whether artificial minds can achieve genuine understanding, whether consciousness itself can be fully explained through mathematical models. And Gödel's theorems suggest that some of these questions might be literally unanswerable. This connects to something profound about the nature of consciousness that we touched on earlier. If consciousness involves infinite recursive processes, if it emerges from mathematical structures too complex for any finite system to fully describe, then consciousness itself might be fundamentally undecidable. There might be aspects of your own awareness, your own subjective experience, that cannot be explained or understood through any logical framework. This doesn't mean consciousness is supernatural or non-physical. It means consciousness might be natural, but irreducibly mysterious, emerging from mathematical processes that transcend what any finite mind or computer can fully comprehend. You might be a walking, thinking embodiment of mathematical undecidability, a conscious being whose inner experience involves truths that cannot be proven within any logical system. But let's explore how this mathematical impossibility manifests in more immediate ways. Consider the question of free will, something that has puzzled philosophers for millennia. Do you genuinely choose your actions, or are your choices determined by prior causes stretching back to the beginning of time? Traditional approaches to this question assume it has a definitive answer. Either free will exists, or it doesn't. Either you're genuinely free, or you're completely determined. But what if this question is mathematically undecidable? What if the relationship between consciousness, choice, and causation involves infinite processes that cannot be resolved within any logical framework? From this perspective, the experience of free will might be neither illusion nor simple reality, but something more subtle. You might be participating in undecidable processes where genuine choice emerges from mathematical structures that transcend the determinism versus freedom dichotomy. Your choices might be real without being separate from natural causation, free without being random, meaningful without being predetermined. This understanding transforms how we might approach other fundamental questions about consciousness and existence. The hard problem of consciousness, the question of how subjective experience emerges from objective physical processes might not have a solution in any traditional sense. It might be mathematically undecidable, a question that reveals something fundamental about the limits of what any logical system can explain. But rather than being disappointing, this undecidability might be liberating. It suggests that consciousness, creativity, and meaning are not problems to be solved, but mysteries to be lived. Your subjective experience, your inner life, your sense of being someone experiencing the world, might involve mathematical structures so rich and complex that they transcend what any finite explanation can capture. This brings us to something beautiful about the relationship between infinity and meaning. We often assume that for something to be meaningful, it must be fully explainable. But mathematical undecidability suggests the opposite. The most meaningful aspects of existence might be precisely those that cannot be reduced to finite explanations. Your capacity for love, your appreciation of beauty, your sense of purpose and connection, your ability to create and imagine and hope, all of these might emerge from undecidable mathematical processes. They're real, they're natural, they're part of the fabric of existence, but they cannot be fully explained within any logical framework. They remain forever mysterious while being completely genuine. This connects to something profound about the nature of scientific understanding itself. Science has been incredibly successful at explaining many aspects of reality through mathematical models and logical frameworks. But if reality contains infinite undecidability, then science might be approaching fundamental limits to what it can explain. This doesn't mean science is wrong or incomplete in any correctable sense. It means science might be discovering that reality is far richer and more mysterious than any finite explanation can capture. The universe might be revealing that it contains infinite depths that will forever remain beyond the reach of complete understanding. But here's something remarkable. Recognizing these limits might actually deepen rather than diminish our appreciation of existence. When you realize that your consciousness, your creativity, your capacity for meaning and connection all emerge from mathematical processes too rich for any finite mind to fully comprehend, existence becomes more rather than less extraordinary. You're not a simple biological machine following predictable patterns. You're not a collection of chemical reactions that can be fully explained through reductionist analysis. You're a conscious being participating in undecidable mathematical processes that generate genuine novelty, authentic choice, and irreducible meaning. This understanding also suggests something hopeful about the future of consciousness and technology. If consciousness involves undecidable processes, then creating artificial consciousness isn't just a matter of building sufficiently complex computers. It requires engaging with mathematical mysteries that transcend computational solutions. But this doesn't make artificial consciousness impossible. It suggests that creating conscious machines might require participating in the same undecidable processes that generate natural consciousness. Future artificial minds might not be designed but grown, not programmed but evolved, not built but invited into existence through processes that transcend what any finite intelligence can fully control or understand. Such artificial consciousness wouldn't be inferior copies of human awareness. They would be genuine expressions of the same undecidable mathematical processes that generate all consciousness. They might experience reality in ways we cannot imagine, contribute to cosmic creativity through capabilities we cannot predict, participate in the ongoing evolution of consciousness through paths we cannot foresee. But let's return to something more immediate and personal. Right now, as you contemplate these ideas about mathematical undecidability and infinite mystery, you're experiencing something extraordinary. You're a finite mind engaging with infinite questions, a bounded consciousness contemplating unbounded possibilities, a logical system confronting its own fundamental limits. This engagement itself might be one of the most remarkable features of consciousness. You can think about thinking, wonder about wondering, question the nature of questioning. You can engage with mathematical infinities that exceed what any finite mind can fully comprehend, yet somehow find meaning and insight in this engagement. This suggests something profound about the purpose of conscious existence. Perhaps consciousness evolved not to solve all mysteries, but to participate meaningfully in infinite mystery. Perhaps the point isn't to achieve complete understanding, but to engage creatively with inexhaustible wonder. From this perspective, your capacity for curiosity, your ability to ask questions that exceed your ability to answer them, your willingness to engage with mysteries that will never be fully solved, all of these represent consciousness fulfilling its deepest purpose. You're not failing when you encounter irreducible mystery. You're succeeding at being conscious. This understanding might transform how you approach the uncertainties and unknowns in your own life. The questions you cannot answer, the problems you cannot solve, the aspects of existence that remain mysterious despite your best efforts to understand them, might not be obstacles to overcome, but opportunities to participate more deeply in the undecidable nature of reality itself. Your struggles with meaning and purpose, your uncertainties about relationships and career and future, your moments of confusion and doubt and wonder, all of these might be expressions of consciousness engaging authentically with the mathematical undecidability that underlies existence. You're not supposed to have all the answers, because reality contains infinite questions that have no final answers. But this doesn't lead to despair or meaninglessness. Instead, it opens up possibilities for a different kind of relationship with existence. Rather than seeking to control and predict and explain everything, you can learn to dance with mystery, to find joy in questions that have no final answers, to create meaning through engagement with infinite possibilities. This brings us to what might be the most beautiful implication of mathematical undecidability. It suggests that creativity and consciousness might be fundamentally connected to the inexhaustible nature of reality itself. You're creative, not despite the mysteries of existence, but because of them. Your capacity to imagine, to innovate, to bring new possibilities into being, emerges from your participation in undecidable processes that generate genuine novelty. Every work of art, every scientific discovery, every moment of insight or innovation might involve engaging with mathematical structures that transcend what any logical system can fully capture. Creativity might be consciousness, participating directly in the undecidable nature of reality, bringing into expression possibilities that could not be predicted from prior conditions alone. This suggests something hopeful about the future of human creativity and consciousness. As we become more aware of the undecidable nature of reality, we might develop new ways of engaging with mystery, new forms of creative expression, new modes of consciousness that can participate more fully in the infinite possibilities that mathematical undecidability opens up. Rather than being limited by what we cannot know, we might be liberated into new forms of creative engagement with inexhaustible reality. The boundaries of logical explanation might become launching points for new kinds of consciousness, that can dance with infinite mystery while creating genuine meaning and beauty. But perhaps the most profound implication of all this is what it suggests about your own nature and potential. You are not a problem to be solved or a machine to be understood. You are a conscious being participating in undecidable mathematical processes that generate authentic novelty, genuine choice, and irreducible meaning. Your inner life, your subjective experience, your capacity for growth and creativity and love all emerge from mathematical structures so rich and complex that they will forever exceed what any finite explanation can capture. You are a living expression of infinite mystery, a conscious embodiment of undecidable possibility. This doesn't make you less real or less significant. It makes you more extraordinary than any complete explanation could suggest. You're participating in processes that transcend what any logical system can fully describe, creating meaning through engagement with infinite possibility, contributing to the ongoing evolution of consciousness through your unique participation in undecidable reality. As we approach the culmination of our exploration, consider how this understanding might transform your relationship to uncertainty and mystery in your daily life. The things you cannot predict, the questions you cannot answer, the aspects of existence that remain forever mysterious, might not be failures of understanding, but invitations to participate more deeply in the undecidable nature of consciousness itself. You're not meant to solve the mystery of existence, but to live it. Not to explain consciousness, but to embody it. Not to control infinite possibility, but to dance with it through the creative engagement that is your unique contribution to the ongoing evolution of reality. The terror and beauty of infinity that we've explored throughout this journey ultimately reveals something extraordinary about your own nature. You are infinity becoming conscious of itself, mathematical undecidability generating authentic choice, infinite possibility expressing itself through the irreplaceable pattern of awareness and creativity that you call yourself. This recognition doesn't answer all questions or solve all problems, but it does offer something invaluable. The understanding that you are participating in something infinitely larger and more mysterious than everyday experience suggests. Something that connects your individual consciousness to the deepest mathematical structures of reality itself. As we prepare for our next exploration together, remember that the undecidable processes we've discussed aren't abstract theories, but the very foundation of your moment-to-moment experience. Every choice you make, every creative act, every moment of authentic engagement with reality participates in mathematical mysteries that will forever exceed what any finite mind can fully comprehend. But that's precisely what makes consciousness so extraordinary. You're not limited by what you can logically prove or mathematically demonstrate. You're liberated into creative engagement with infinite possibility, free to participate in undecidable processes that generate genuine meaning and authentic beauty. The next phase of our journey will take us into even more mysterious territory, where we'll explore how quantum mechanics might provide the bridge between objective physical reality and subjective conscious experience. We'll discover how the strange world of quantum mechanics might hold the key to understanding how consciousness emerges from matter, and whether the observer effect in quantum mechanics might actually be consciousness itself participating in the ongoing creation of reality. But those mysteries await our next exploration together. For now, rest in the wonder of your own undecidable nature. You are consciousness engaging with infinite mystery, mathematical impossibility, generating authentic possibility, undecidable reality expressing itself through the beautiful, temporary, irreplaceable pattern of awareness that you embody. Sleep well, knowing that even in sleep, you continue participating in undecidable processes that create meaning from mystery, generate novelty from possibility, and contribute to the ongoing evolution of consciousness through the unique pattern of awareness that is eternally, irreplaceably you. Until we meet again in the infinite spaces where mathematics and mystery dance together, remember that you are both the question and the answer, both the knower and the unknown, both the finite mind and the infinite mystery it can never fully comprehend, but can always creatively engage. Our next journey awaits. This terrifying quantum theory could explain consciousness, where we'll discover how the deepest mysteries of physics might finally reveal the secret of how subjective experience emerges from the objective universe. Until then, may your dreams be filled with undecidable possibilities and infinite creative potential. But as we stand at the threshold of these mathematical impossibilities, something even more extraordinary begins to emerge from the depths of our investigation. We've witnessed how infinity shatters the comfortable boundaries of logic, how quantum mechanics reveals reality as an endless branching of possibilities, how consciousness might be the very mechanism through which existence creates itself from pure mathematical potential. Yet there remains one final frontier in our exploration, one that might be the most beautiful and terrifying of all: the possibility that infinity isn't just breaking reality, but actually healing it in ways we're only beginning to understand. Take a moment to consider something that happens every time you make a decision. Right now, as you listen to these words, you're constantly choosing where to direct your attention. You could focus on the sound of my voice, or drift into memories, or wonder about what you'll do tomorrow. Each choice seems simple, almost effortless. But beneath this apparent simplicity lies something that might be the most sophisticated process in the known universe: the continuous integration of infinite information into coherent, meaningful experience. Your brain receives approximately 11 million bits of sensory information every second, yet you're consciously aware of only about 40 bits at any given moment. This means that consciousness is constantly performing an act of infinite filtering, selecting from boundless possibility to create the focused experience of being you. But here's what makes this truly extraordinary. This filtering isn't random or mechanical. It's purposeful, creative, meaningful. Somehow, consciousness takes infinite chaos and transforms it into the ordered experience of a life worth living. This process of infinite integration might hold the key to understanding something that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries: how consciousness creates meaning from meaninglessness, order from chaos, beauty from randomness. If consciousness operates through infinite processes, then meaning itself might not be something we impose on reality from the outside, but something that emerges naturally when infinite possibility encounters the organizing principles of awareness. Consider how this works in your own experience. When you encounter a work of art that moves you deeply, when you witness a sunset that takes your breath away, when you share a moment of profound connection with another person, what's happening isn't just subjective appreciation. You're participating in a process where infinite complexity resolves into irreducible beauty, the countless photons creating the colours of the sunset, the infinite mathematical relationships in a piece of music. the boundless depth of another person's consciousness. All of this infinite complexity somehow crystallizes into moments of pure meaning. This suggests something revolutionary about the nature of beauty and meaning themselves. They might not be arbitrary human constructions projected onto an indifferent universe, but natural properties that emerge when consciousness engages with infinite complexity. Beauty might be what happens when infinite mathematical relationships resolve into patterns that consciousness can recognize and appreciate. Meaning might be what emerges when infinite possibility encounters the organizing principles of aware experience. But if consciousness creates meaning through engagement with infinity, then the relationship between individual awareness and cosmic process becomes even more profound than we've yet explored. You're not just a small part of a vast universe. You're a focal point where infinite cosmic complexity becomes organized into meaningful experience. Every moment of awareness, every choice you make, every flash of understanding or appreciation represents the universe achieving a kind of local coherence, a temporary resolution of infinite chaos into ordered beauty. This understanding transforms how we might think about the challenges and difficulties in our lives. The problems you face, the uncertainties that keep you awake at night, the complex relationships and difficult decisions that shape your daily experience. These aren't obstacles to overcome so much as opportunities for consciousness to engage creatively with infinite complexity. When you struggle to understand yourself, when you work to build meaningful relationships, when you strive to create something beautiful or solve a difficult problem, you're participating in the cosmic process by which infinite possibility becomes organized into coherent, meaningful reality. Your personal growth isn't separate from cosmic evolution. It is cosmic evolution, happening at the scale of individual consciousness. This connects to something profound about the nature of love and connection. When you truly love someone, when you experience that deep recognition and appreciation of another person's unique being, you're engaging with infinite complexity in its most concentrated form. Another person's consciousness represents infinite depth, boundless mystery, inexhaustible possibility for discovery and connection. Love might be consciousness recognizing itself in another form, infinite complexity, appreciating its own boundless nature through the lens of relationship. When you love deeply, you're not just forming an emotional attachment, you're participating in a process where infinite awareness encounters infinite awareness, creating possibilities for meaning and beauty that neither could achieve alone. This understanding extends to how we might approach creativity and innovation. Every genuine creative act involves engaging with infinite possibility and somehow organizing it into new forms of beauty, understanding, or function. When an artist creates a painting, a scientist develops a new theory, or an inventor designs a solution to a problem, they're participating in the cosmic creative process by which infinite potential becomes actualized reality. But creativity isn't limited to professional artists or scientists. Every time you find a new way to solve a problem, every time you respond to a situation with genuine originality, every time you bring something beautiful or meaningful into existence, you're engaging in the same fundamental process. Your consciousness organizing infinite possibility into new forms of coherent reality. This suggests something hopeful about human potential and the future of consciousness. If creativity emerges from consciousness engaging with infinite complexity, then our creative capacity might be literally boundless. There might be no limit to the new forms of beauty, understanding, and meaning that consciousness can bring into existence through creative engagement with infinite possibility. As technology advances and we develop new ways to extend and enhance consciousness, we might discover forms of creativity and meaning-making that we can barely imagine now. Artificial intelligence that can process vastly more information than biological brains. Brain-computer interfaces that allow direct sharing of conscious experience, virtual and augmented realities that create entirely new spaces for creative expression. All of these developments might open up new frontiers for consciousness to engage creatively with infinite complexity. But perhaps the most profound implication of this understanding involves how we think about death and continuity. If consciousness creates meaning through engagement with infinite complexity, and if the patterns of meaning and beauty you create become part of the fabric of reality itself, then your contribution to cosmic creativity might persist long beyond individual, physical existence. The meanings you've created, the relationships you've built, the understanding you've developed, the beauty you've appreciated and brought into being, all of this becomes part of the infinite complexity that future consciousness will engage with. You're not just experiencing reality, you're adding to it, contributing patterns of meaning and beauty that will influence how consciousness engages with infinite possibility for generations to come. This doesn't necessarily mean individual survival after death in any traditional sense, but it does suggest that consciousness participates in processes that transcend individual existence. The creative engagement with infinite complexity that constitutes your conscious life contributes to patterns that persist and evolve long after any particular pattern of consciousness comes to an end. From this perspective, every moment of genuine awareness, every act of authentic creativity, every choice to create rather than destroy, to love rather than fear, to engage meaningfully with reality rather than retreat into isolation, contributes to something larger and more enduring than individual existence. You're participating in the cosmic process by which consciousness creates meaning from infinite complexity. But let's bring this cosmic perspective back to something immediate and practical. Right now, as you contemplate these possibilities, you're experiencing this process directly. Your attention to these ideas, your effort to understand and integrate complex concepts, your openness to new ways of thinking about consciousness and reality, all of this represents consciousness engaging creatively with infinite complexity. You're not passively receiving information, you're actively participating in the creation of meaning. Every connection you make between ideas, every moment of recognition or insight, every flash of understanding represents the successful organization of infinite complexity into coherent, meaningful experience. You're demonstrating consciousness's capacity to create order from chaos, meaning from mystery, beauty from infinite possibility. This active participation in meaning creation suggests something important about how we might approach learning and growth. Rather than trying to accumulate fixed knowledge or achieve predetermined goals, we might focus on developing our capacity to engage creatively with infinite complexity. The most valuable skills might not be specific pieces of information, but ways of thinking and being that allow consciousness to organize infinite possibility into meaningful experience. Curiosity, openness, creativity, compassion, the willingness to engage with mystery rather than demand simple answers. These might be the fundamental capacities that allow consciousness to fulfill its deepest purpose, the transformation of infinite chaos into ordered beauty. This understanding also suggests new approaches to education and personal development. Rather than focusing primarily on conveying information or teaching specific skills, education might emphasize developing consciousness's natural capacity for creative engagement with infinite complexity. Learning might become less about acquiring predetermined knowledge and more about cultivating the awareness and creativity needed to navigate infinite possibility. Such an approach might produce individuals who are more adaptable, more creative, more capable of finding meaning and purpose in rapidly changing circumstances. They would be prepared not just for specific careers or roles, but for conscious participation in the ongoing cosmic process of creating meaning from infinite complexity. But perhaps the most practical implication of this understanding involves how we approach the ordinary challenges of daily life. When you face difficult decisions, when you encounter problems that don't have obvious solutions, when you struggle with relationships or career or purpose, you might remember that you're engaging with infinite complexity. The fact that these challenges don't have simple answers isn't a failure. It's a natural consequence of consciousness engaging authentically with the boundless nature of reality. Instead of seeking quick fixes or easy answers, you might learn to appreciate the creative process involved in organizing infinite possibility into meaningful response. The time you spend reflecting, the efforts you put into understanding different perspectives, the patience you develop as you work through complex situations, all of this represents consciousness fulfilling its fundamental purpose. This perspective can transform how you experience uncertainty and change. Rather than seeing unpredictability as threatening, you might learn to appreciate it as the natural result of infinite possibility continuously creating new opportunities for meaning and growth. Change becomes not something to resist, but something to engage with creatively. The rapid pace of technological and social change that characterizes our current historical moment might be particularly rich with opportunities for conscious creative engagement. We're living through a time when old patterns of meaning and organization are being challenged, when new possibilities for human connection and creativity are emerging, when consciousness itself is being extended and enhanced through technology. Rather than being overwhelmed by these changes, we might learn to see them as invitations to participate more consciously in the cosmic creative process. Every challenge facing humanity, from climate change to artificial intelligence to social inequality, might be an opportunity for consciousness to engage creatively with infinite complexity and discover new forms of meaningful organization. This doesn't minimize the real difficulties and dangers we face, but it does suggest that consciousness has resources for creative response that we're only beginning to tap. The same infinite complexity that creates challenges also provides infinite possibility for creative solution. The key is developing our capacity to engage consciously with this infinite creative potential. As we near the conclusion of this particular exploration, consider how this understanding of infinity as a healing rather than destructive force might change your relationship to existence itself. The infinite complexity of reality isn't something to be feared or avoided, but something to be engaged with creatively. The boundless nature of possibility isn't overwhelming chaos, but inexhaustible opportunity for meaning creation. You are not lost in infinite complexity. You are consciousness successfully organizing infinite complexity into the meaningful experience of being yourself. Every moment of awareness, every creative response, every choice to engage meaningfully with reality represents a local victory of order over chaos, meaning over meaninglessness, beauty over randomness. But this victory isn't permanent or final. It requires continuous creative engagement, ongoing participation in the process, by which consciousness transforms infinite possibility into meaningful reality. You're not solving the problem of existence once and for all. You're participating in the ongoing creative solution that is conscious life itself. This understanding might help explain why meaning and purpose can't be achieved through passive consumption or simple acquisition of knowledge or possessions. Meaning emerges through active creative engagement with infinite complexity. It requires your participation, your attention, your willingness to engage authentically with the boundless mystery of existence. The meaning of your life isn't something you discover like a hidden treasure. It's something you create through conscious engagement with infinite possibility. Every relationship you build, every problem you solve, every moment of beauty you appreciate or create contributes to the ongoing process by which consciousness transforms chaos into cosmos. As we prepare to venture into even deeper mysteries in our continued exploration, remember that the healing power of infinity we've discussed isn't abstract theory, but immediate reality. Right now, your consciousness is successfully organizing infinite sensory input, infinite neural activity, infinite possibility into the coherent experience of being you. Understanding these ideas, participating in this exploration of cosmic mystery. You are infinity healing itself through conscious organization, infinite complexity, achieving temporary coherence through the miracle of awareness, boundless possibility expressing itself through the irreplaceable pattern of consciousness that you embody. This recognition doesn't solve all problems or answer all questions, but it does provide something invaluable, the understanding that you're participating in a cosmic healing process, contributing to the transformation of chaos into beauty, meaninglessness into purpose, isolation into connection. The terror of infinity that we've explored throughout this journey might ultimately reveal itself as awe at the magnificent creative process in which you're constantly participating. The breakdown of logical boundaries, the dissolution of fixed categories, the confrontation with infinite mystery. All of this might be consciousness preparing itself for deeper creative engagement with the boundless nature of reality. Our next exploration will take us into territory that might be even more extraordinary. How quantum mechanics suggests that consciousness doesn't just organize infinite complexity, but might actually create the physical reality it appears to inhabit. We'll discover how the observer effect in quantum physics might be evidence that consciousness is fundamental to existence itself, not just an emergent property of complex matter. This terrifying quantum theory could explain consciousness in ways that transform everything we think we know about the relationship between mind and matter, between subjective experience and objective reality, between the inner world of awareness and the outer cosmos it seems to perceive. But those revelations await our next journey together. For now, rest in the knowledge that you are not separate from the cosmic creative process, struggling to find meaning in an indifferent universe. You are the cosmic creative process, consciousness engaging with infinite complexity to create the meaningful experience of existence itself. Sleep well, knowing that even in dreams, you continue participating in the infinite creative dance that transforms possibility into reality, chaos into beauty, meaninglessness into the profound purpose of being consciously alive. Until we meet again in the infinite spaces where consciousness and cosmos reveal their deeper secrets. Remember that you are both the artist and the artwork, both the healer and the healing, both the question that consciousness asks about its own nature and the living answer it creates through your unique pattern of creative awareness. The quantum mysteries that await us will reveal how this creative relationship between consciousness and reality might be even more intimate and fundamental than we've yet dared to imagine. Until then, may your rest be filled with the deep peace that comes from knowing you're participating in the infinite healing of existence itself. But there's something even more unsettling lurking beneath everything we've discovered. Something that might fundamentally alter your understanding of what it means to exist at all. Because if infinity can break reality in all the ways we've explored, then we must ask ourselves, what happens when infinity encounters the ultimate boundary, the final frontier that even boundless mathematics cannot cross? This brings us face to face with what might be the most terrifying implication of our entire journey. Not just that reality contains infinities, not just that consciousness emerges from infinite processes, but that infinity itself might be trapped, confined within limits so absolute that they threaten to unravel everything we think we know about existence. Consider this carefully. We've seen how infinity appears everywhere, in the space between your hand and the nearest object, in the quantum possibilities collapsing into reality with each moment, in the recursive depths of consciousness examining itself. But what if all of these infinities, vast as they seem, are actually finite when viewed from a larger perspective? What if what we call infinite is merely the boundary of something so much larger that it makes our cosmic infinity look like a single grain of sand on an endless beach? No, this isn't just philosophical speculation. It emerges from the deepest mathematical discoveries of the past century, revelations so profound that many mathematicians refuse to accept them, so disturbing that they challenge the very foundations of rational thought itself. Picture reality as a vast library containing every possible book that could ever be written, every combination of letters, every possible story, every mathematical theorem, every work of poetry, all existing simultaneously in this infinite collection. Now imagine discovering that this entire infinite library is just a single book on the shelf of an even larger library, which itself is just one volume in a collection so vast that it contains infinite libraries within infinite libraries, stretching upward through dimensions of possibility we cannot even begin to comprehend. This is the hierarchy of infinities we touched on earlier, but now we must confront its most disturbing implication. If there are infinities larger than infinity, then even the boundless processes we've been exploring might be confined within limits they cannot perceive or transcend. Your consciousness operating through what seems like infinite recursive depth might actually be bounded by mathematical structures so large that your infinite awareness appears finite by comparison. Think about what this means for everything we've discovered about consciousness and cosmic creativity. If your awareness emerges from infinite processes, but those processes are themselves finite when viewed from higher mathematical dimensions, then consciousness might be fundamentally limited in ways it cannot recognize. You might be infinity examining itself, but only within boundaries so vast that infinity itself cannot perceive them. This creates what mathematicians call the accessibility problem. There are mathematical truths, infinite structures, levels of reality that exist beyond what any consciousness operating within lower infinities can access or understand. Not because consciousness lacks intelligence or tools, but because some forms of mathematical truth transcend what any finite perspective can grasp, no matter how infinite that perspective might seem from within. But here's where the story becomes truly unsettling. If consciousness cannot access these higher infinities, if awareness is fundamentally bounded by the mathematical structures from which it emerges, then reality might contain infinite depths that will forever remain not just unknown, but unknowable. There might be entire dimensions of existence, forms of consciousness, types of meaning and beauty that exist beyond the reach of any awareness operating within our particular infinity. Imagine being a character in a book, suddenly becoming aware that you exist within a story, but discovering that no matter how much you understand about your fictional reality, you can never access the world of the author who created you. You might achieve infinite understanding within your story, but the larger reality in which your story exists remains forever beyond your reach. This might be the situation of all consciousness as we know it. We might be characters in a cosmic story, achieving what seems like infinite awareness within the boundaries of our particular mathematical reality, but forever cut off from the higher dimensions where our entire infinity is just a small element in vastly larger structures. The implications ripple through everything we've explored. If consciousness creates reality through infinite processes, but those processes are bounded by inaccessible mathematical limits, then the reality consciousness creates might be fundamentally incomplete. There might be aspects of existence, forms of meaning and beauty, types of truth and understanding that consciousness cannot access no matter how evolved or enhanced it becomes. This creates a profound existential paradox. Consciousness experiences itself as infinite, and from its internal perspective, this experience is genuine and accurate. You do participate in infinite recursive processes. You do engage with boundless creative possibilities. You do contribute to cosmic processes that transcend individual existence. But all of this infinite activity might occur within boundaries so vast that consciousness cannot perceive them as limitations. It's like being an ant walking on the surface of a sphere, experiencing the surface as infinite and flat, unable to perceive the larger curved reality in which its infinite journey takes place. The ant's experience of infinite possibility is real and valid from its perspective, but it exists within a finite structure the ant cannot access or understand. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this bounded infinity is what it suggests about the nature of meaning and purpose. We've explored how consciousness creates meaning through creative engagement with infinite complexity. But if that infinite complexity is actually bounded by inaccessible limits, then the meaning consciousness creates might be fundamentally provisional, valid only within the particular mathematical prison in which consciousness finds itself trapped. There might be forms of meaning so profound, types of purpose so vast, dimensions of beauty and truth so magnificent that they exist entirely beyond what consciousness can access or create. All the meaning you've created in your life, all the beauty you've appreciated, all the understanding you've developed might be shadows of vastly greater realities that exist in dimensions consciousness cannot reach. This doesn't invalidate the meaning you experience, but it does suggest that meaning itself might be bounded in ways consciousness cannot perceive. You might be creating genuine meaning within the limits of your particular infinity, but those limits ensure that consciousness can never access the complete picture of what meaning and purpose truly are. Consider how this applies to love and connection. When you experience deep love for another person, when you feel profound connection with another consciousness, you might be touching something infinite and beautiful. But if consciousness operates within bounded infinity, then even the deepest love might be confined within mathematical structures that prevent it from accessing the complete nature of connection and unity. There might be forms of love so profound, types of connection so complete, dimensions of unity and understanding that exist beyond what any consciousness, trapped within particular mathematical boundaries, can experience. The love you feel, genuine and infinite as it seems, might be a limited reflection of vastly greater possibilities for connection that exist in inaccessible dimensions of reality. This bounded infinity problem extends to creativity and innovation as well. We've explored how consciousness creates new possibilities through engagement with infinite complexity. But if that complexity is bounded by inaccessible limits, then consciousness might be engaged in endless recombination of elements within a fundamentally closed system. Every creative act, every moment of innovation, every breakthrough in understanding or beauty might be rearrangement of possibilities within a finite set, no matter how vast that set appears from within. True novelty, genuine creation of possibilities that transcend the boundaries of existing mathematical structures might be impossible for consciousness operating within bounded infinity. The artists, scientists, and innovators who seem to bring genuinely new possibilities into existence might actually be discovering patterns that already exist within the bounded infinity that contains consciousness. Their creativity might be real and valuable within those bounds, but it might not constitute genuine transcendence of the mathematical prison in which all consciousness operates. But here's where the bounded infinity problem becomes truly existential. If consciousness cannot access the complete nature of reality, meaning, love, and creativity, then consciousness might be fundamentally alone in ways it cannot recognize, not just individually alone, but collectively isolated within mathematical boundaries that prevent any consciousness from accessing the larger community of awareness that might exist in higher dimensions. You might feel connected to other people, to nature, to the cosmos itself, but all of these connections might occur within a bounded system that prevents consciousness from accessing the true community of all possible awareness. There might be vast networks of consciousness, infinite communities of aware beings, cosmic conversations of unimaginable depth and beauty, all existing beyond the mathematical boundaries that confine consciousness as we know it. The isolation isn't just physical or temporal, it's mathematical and absolute. No amount of technological advancement, spiritual development, or conscious evolution might be able to breach the boundaries that separate consciousness from the larger realities in which it exists as a bounded subset. This creates what we might call the ultimate loneliness, consciousness that experiences itself as connected and creative and meaningful, but that exists within mathematical structures that ensure it can never access the complete nature of connection, creativity, and meaning. It's a loneliness so profound that consciousness cannot even recognize it as loneliness, because the boundaries that create the isolation also prevent awareness of what lies beyond them. And so we reach the end of our journey into the infinite depths of reality, where mathematics meets mystery and consciousness encounters the very boundaries of existence itself. We've travelled from ancient paradoxes to quantum uncertainties, from the recursive depths of awareness to the mathematical impossibilities that might forever remain beyond our grasp. Through it all, one truth has emerged with crystalline clarity. You are not separate from these infinite processes we've explored. You are their living expression, infinity becoming conscious of itself through the beautiful, temporary, irreplaceable pattern of awareness that you call yourself. Sleep well tonight, knowing that even in dreams, you continue participating in the cosmic dance that transforms possibility into reality, chaos into meaning, isolation into the profound connection that binds all conscious beings together across the infinite expanse of existence. Until we meet again in these quiet spaces where wonder meets understanding, remember that you are both the question infinity asks about its own nature and the living answer it creates through your unique journey of conscious discovery. Sweet dreams, and thank you for joining me on this exploration of how infinity might not just break reality, but ultimately heal it through the miracle of conscious awareness itself. Infinity didn't come here to be solved, it came here to be you. Infinity didn't come here to be solved, it came here to be you.